Today, we're diving into a case that really shook Youngstown, Ohio back in 2017. The disappearance and death of Shannon Graves.
Yeah.
Folks might know the basics, but we're going deeper.
What's really unsettling about this case is how it exposes domestic violence. How it hides in plain sight. Sadly, Shannon's story, it's not an isolated incident. It shows how abusers can manipulate. They can control their victims, even those who seem strong.
Exactly. To really grasp this tragedy, we need to understand Shannon. Her nickname was Star, and she truly lived up to it. She was vibrant, so into music and art, close to her dog, just radiated positive energy.
And that's important because it challenges that misconception that victims are somehow, weak or vulnerable.
Right.
Shannon, she was full of life, strong personality. This case, it really highlights that anyone can become a victim. It doesn't matter, outward appearance, personality, any of that.
No, it doesn't. So in 2017, Shannon was dating Arturo Novoa. What seemed like a normal relationship, it took a dark turn pretty quickly. Friends and family, they noticed changes. Pension, distance, even if they couldn't pinpoint what was wrong.
And that's where coercive control comes in. Abusers, like Novoa, often they isolate their victims from their support networks. They might, subtly discourage them from seeing friends and family, creating a dependency.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then in February that year, Shannon vanishes.
Right.
At first, loved ones thought she just needed space, which, isn't unusual in these cases.
Right.
But as weeks became months, the worry grew. Especially with Novoa's inconsistent stories about where Shannon was.
That's a classic tactic. Creating confusion, deflecting suspicion.
Right.
The shifting narratives, that's a red flag.
Huge red flag.
It shows a deliberate attempt to control the story by time.
And then, in July, the case takes this horrible turn. A friend of Novoa's calls the police. He's alarmed because Novoa asked him to store a large freezer. I can't imagine the shock when they opened it and found human remains.
This discovery was a turning point. But it also shows the calculated effort to hide the crime.
Yeah.
The fact that Novoa involved others, even unknowingly, it's disturbing. It shows premeditation.
It's just horrifying. The investigation then revealed another person in this story, Katrina Layton. She had taken over Shannon's life.
Oh, wow.
Moved into her apartment, started wearing her clothes, even caring for her dog.
Layton's role, it's complex. It speaks to how manipulative abusers can be. Was she an accomplice, or was she also being controlled by Novoa? This raises so many questions about their relationship and Layton's culpability.
It's hard to grasp. But the evidence against Novoa, it piled up. Text messages, witness testimonies pointing to a plan. They brought cleaning supplies, tools to get rid of evidence, the whole 9 yards.
What strikes me is the lack of empathy, remorse. Novoa's actions, they suggest no regard for human life. He treated Shannon like something to be discarded, and his manipulation, it went beyond Shannon. He pulled others into his web of lies.
And that's what's so crucial for our listeners to understand.
Right.
Yeah.
These aren't just isolated incidents, they're patterns. Recognizing these early signs is vital.
Absolutely. Coercive control, gaslighting, isolation, these are the tools abusers use. Shannon's case, it's a reminder to be vigilant, not just for ourselves, but for everyone we care about.
Yes, for everyone we care about. I can't even imagine the pain Shannon's family and friends went through during the investigation, the trial.
Right.
This wasn't just a case for them. It was losing someone they loved.
And the impact of something like this, it goes way beyond the courtroom, the grief, the anger, the questions that just linger. It takes so long to heal from something like this. Shannon's family, her friends, they had to deal with the legal stuff, sure, but also the emotional toll, just the huge hole left behind.
And they were so strong in fighting for justice for Shannon.
Yeah, they were.
At the trial of the prosecution, they really laid out their case against Novoa. The evidence, it was overwhelming.
Yeah.
It showed how calculated he was, how far he went to hide what he did.
What's really disturbing is how Novoa used people around him. He pulled them into his scheme, lying, deceiving to get what he wanted. This manipulation, it's typical of abusers. It often goes beyond just the victim.
The trial also showed just how complex Katrina Layton's involvement was. She helped investigators, got a reduced sentence. But it makes you think about complicity, how much influence abusers can have.
Layton's case brings up tough questions about domestic violence cases. Was she a victim too, forced by Novoa's manipulation, or did she willingly participate in the cover-up? It's hard to untangle the dynamics of abuse,
It is. In the end, the jury found Arturo Novoa guilty. All charges. Murder, abuse of a corpse, tampering with evidence, life in prison, no parole. And
Wow.
while the legal system held him accountable, it can't bring Shannon back. It can't erase the pain,
Hmm.
the void she left behind. It's just immense. But her family and friends, they honor her memory. They keep her spirit alive by speaking out, sharing her story. And that's something we forget sometimes when we talk about true crime, the lasting impact of those left behind.
Yeah.
They have to pick up the pieces, deal with the trauma, live in a world forever changed by this violence.
It reminds us that behind every headline, every case file, there are real people whose lives are shattered. Their stories need to be heard, their pain acknowledged, and their strength, their resilience. We need to celebrate that.
Absolutely. And while we can't change what happened, we can learn from it. Shannon's case, it's a powerful reminder to see the signs of abuse and to step in, to intervene.
Hmm.
It shows how important it is for all of us to work towards a safer society.
Understanding things like coercive control, gaslighting, other types of abuse, that's how we empower ourselves and each other. It's about breaking the silence, challenging the norms, building a culture where victims feel safe to speak out.
You mentioned gaslighting. I think we need to explain that a bit more for our listeners. How does that work? How does it feed the cycle of abuse?
Gaslighting, it's psychological manipulation.
Yeah.
The abuser, they warp reality to make the victim doubt their own sanity, their perception. They might deny things that happened, twist facts, blame the victim for their own feelings. It chips away at the victim's self-worth, their confidence.
So like in Shannon's case, if Novoa kept denying his controlling behavior, making her question her experiences, that would be gaslighting.
Exactly. By constantly dismissing her feelings, her experiences, Novoa could maintain control, made it harder for Shannon to see the abuse, to get help. Gaslighting is sneaky, it's subtle, it's tough to spot, leaves the victim feeling alone, unsure of themselves.
It's almost like brainwashing, making the victim question their reality.
Yeah.
It traps them.
That's why it's so dangerous. It traps victims in this web of self-doubt, makes it incredibly hard to leave the relationship. We need to understand gaslighting is abuse. It has serious psychological effects.
So seeing these patterns is crucial. But what can someone do if they think someone they care about is being abused? Or if they're experiencing it themselves? It's a tough situation.
It is. The first step is reaching out. Talk to someone you trust, a friend, family, a professional. There's so many resources, hotlines, shelters, support groups, all for victims of domestic violence.
And remembering that getting help is strong, not weak.
Oh.
It's incredibly brave to break free from abuse. And there are people who understand, who want to help, who can help start that new chapter.
What's crucial for those supporting someone going through abuse? Don't judge. Just support them. Listen, believe, validate their experiences. Help them find resources, make a safety plan. And most importantly, make sure they know they're not alone.
We've talked about recognizing signs, getting help. But what about preventing this? What can we do as a society to tackle the root causes of domestic violence to stop these tragedies before they happen?
Prevention needs a multi-pronged approach. It starts with education. We need to teach young people about healthy relationships, respect, boundaries, consent. We need to challenge those harmful gender stereotypes, push for equality everywhere.
So it's not just individual cases, it's about changing our culture. So violence isn't accepted in any form.
Exactly. We need a society where respect, empathy, healthy communication, that's the norm. That means challenging the way violence is shown in media, in pop culture, promoting positive role models, creating environments where people feel strong enough to speak out against injustice.
We've covered a lot, and it's heavy stuff. But even in this tragedy, there's a glimmer of hope. Shannon's case, as heartbreaking as it is, it started conversations, it sparked action. Her story is a push for change, a call for awareness, a reminder that we can all work towards a safer, more just world. We've gone through the details of Shannon's story and looked at how complex domestic violence can be. Now, let's think about what we can actually do, each of us, to stop this.
Yeah, that's the important part.
As individuals, as a community, how do we fight this?
The key is that change starts with us.
Mhm.
Each and every one of us has a role in creating a safer world. We start by recognizing the signs, not just for ourselves, but for the people around us.
We talked about some warning signs, but could you give our listeners a more complete list? Things that might show someone's being abused?
Sure. Every situation is different, of course, but there are some patterns, like isolating the victim from their support network, controlling their money or where they go, using threats, intimidation, or emotional manipulation like gaslighting.
And a lot of times, it escalates, right?
Yeah.
Starts subtle, then gets worse over time.
It's like it wears down the victim's independence, their self-worth.
So what if you think a friend, family member, even a coworker is being abused? It's It's tough to know what to do.
It is. The most important thing is to be sensitive, to be empathetic. Let them know you're worried, but don't judge. Just listen. Let them know you're there for them. Don't give advice they didn't ask for. Don't push them to leave. That can actually make things worse, even dangerous.
Right, right. It's about giving them a safe space to talk, helping them feel empowered to make their own decisions.
That's it. You can also offer practical help, like helping them research resources, hotlines, shelters, legal aid. Emphasize, they're not alone. There are people who get it, who can help, who can guide and support them.
And for those who might be going through abuse themselves, it's so hard to get out, especially when fear and manipulation are involved.
If you're in that situation, please know you deserve safety and respect. First, recognize that it's not your fault. The abuse, it's about the abuser wanting power and control. Reach out for help, whether it's a friend, family, a professional, anyone you trust.
And it's important to remember that leaving an abusive relationship, it's not always easy or safe.
No, it's not.
It takes planning, and often professional help is needed to navigate that.
Definitely. A safety plan is crucial. Think about safe places to go, secure important documents, belongings, have a trusted person you can reach in an emergency. Your safety comes first.
We've talked about individual actions, but how do we tackle this as a society? What works to prevent domestic violence to make a safer world?
Preventing domestic violence, it needs a multi-pronged approach, one that gets to the roots of this problem. It's about challenging harmful gender stereotypes, promoting equality, teaching healthy relationships through education and awareness, and supporting services for victims and their families.
So changing the norms, the attitudes that fuel this violence, this inequality.
Exactly. We need a culture where respect, empathy, healthy communication, that's just how we are. That means teaching young people about healthy relationships, consent, how to resolve conflicts peacefully, and challenging how violence is portrayed in the media, in pop culture.
It's a long road, and it takes all of us working together, communities, institutions, everyone.
It does. But it's a fight worth having. Every step we take to raise awareness, to support victims, to challenge those harmful norms, it brings us closer to a world without domestic violence.
As we wrap up our deep dive into this heavy but really important topic, I want our listeners to feel hopeful. Domestic violence is a harsh reality, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. By working together, speaking out, supporting victims, challenging harmful norms, we can create a world that's safer, more just for everyone.
And to anyone out there who's experiencing abuse or knows someone who is, you're not alone. There is help, there is support, and there's a way to heal. Reach out to a friend, a family member, or a professional organization.
Well, thank you for sharing your insights with us today. Your knowledge, your passion for this issue, it's inspiring.
It was my pleasure. Remember, even small actions can make a big difference. Every voice that speaks out against domestic violence, it helps build a brighter future.
And to our listeners, thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We hope it's given you information, sparked some thought, maybe even inspired you to take action. Remember, change starts with each of us.
If you enjoyed this video and want to dive deeper into more cases like this one, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to like the video if you found the story compelling, and share it with your friends and family who might be interested in true crime and mysteries. By subscribing, you'll stay up to date with all our latest content and join a growing community of curious minds exploring the most fascinating cases. Click the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything.